Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today's video I'm going to be telling you all about the State Board practical exam for New York State. I just took mine this past weekend, so now I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and I want to kind of share everything that I learned throughout the process and things that I didn't know going into it, because it is a very nerve-wracking and stressful exam. You know, it's one of your state boards, it's the practical, so you're doing the hands-on portion. New York State has a list of procedures and they have a list of supplies you need, but I personally felt like it was really hard to know exactly what you're supposed to do and exactly what to bring, and I was very nervous about that aspect of it. So here I am to tell you everything, tell you exactly what I wish I knew, what I learned, everything. So I'm just gonna jump right in. So the first thing that I made a note of, so I took my exam in Rochester. It was at the Continental School of Beauty in Rochester. The address that they put on, I think it's like on the website, that basically the address that they tell you to go to is not exactly where I actually had my exam. So when you pull into the parking lot, there's two buildings. There's a building that has something for the Continental School, and then there's a Cosmoprof right next to it. Like not connected to it, but in the same parking lot, I guess, is the actual Continental School of Beauty, like their whole salon and spa area. So the address that New York State gives you to take your exam is the Continental School of Beauty salon and spa area. It's the big building. The building I actually went into was the Continental that's attached to the store. So I think the address was actually 625 when on the sheet it said 633. Just so you know, just so you are prepared and you're not like just wondering where to go, because that was something. I was sitting in the parking lot trying to watch the other girls go in because I was like, I don't know where to go. But so basically you walk in the doors. The one was locked when I got in, so a girl at the desk had come in and unlock it. But you go in, you check in on the sheet, and then they had us go and line up in towards like the back of one of the hallways where we were going to be tested, and it was right outside the room we were going to be tested in. And then they bring you in one by one and have you sign in, and they sign in that you're here, and you have to sign a COVID sheet and everything. And then you're in the room, they assign you a table. In the room there's however many white spa beds and a little shelf. It's probably like this wide, I'd say, maybe a little bit more. It's just along the wall, and it's a long shelf that just kind of goes all the way down. So you can use your space of that shelf. There was nobody next to me on the one side, so I kind of used maybe a little bit more space. And then there are mag lamps. Some of them, there were ones on the ground. Most of them had ones behind you on the wall that you just kind of have to move forward. They didn't really reach all the way to the spa table, but you just kind of have to maneuver it and play around with it just to make sure that it's at a comfortable level for you. So another thing was that on the supply list it tells you that you either need safety goggles or a face shield, and nobody in my... There were 6 of us, I think, who were taking the exam together. None of the girls were wearing them, and I didn't know if they just didn't have them, or I didn't know if it was still, if you still needed them. But on the most recent sheet that I looked at, it had it on the supply list. So I decided, you know, who cares if I put on a face shield and I look silly in a face shield? I'm just gonna wear it. I don't want this to be the reason that I fail my exam. So I put on my face shield. Take that how you will. If you want to be safe and just wear it, I say wear it, because that's what I did. But if you don't, then you can take that chance. And if anything's changed, let me know, but I'm not sure. So there's that. Another thing is that all the girls that I went to school with were all saying that they would just bring their stuff in a suitcase to the exam. Someone else who was at a different school said that everybody just brings clear totes. So I didn't really know what to do. I thought that just bringing a suitcase would be easier to just kind of bring in and I wouldn't have to carry a whole big thing. So I did bring a suitcase. I was actually the only one who brought a suitcase. Everybody else did have just like a clear tote. And it's not like it's clear, it's like the frosted plastic totes. And I think some of the girls did rent kits from the school, so theirs obviously came in the clear totes, but for the most part, I don't think it really made much of a difference. Halfway through the exam, I was kind of like, oh, I wish I brought a clear tote. I feel like it would have been easier, but it didn't make a difference, and the suitcase was easy just to roll in and out, and you do have enough room. If it's like just a small carry-on suitcase, there's enough room to lay it out underneath the shelf that you are, you know, putting your stuff on. So you come in, you put your stuff underneath the shelf, and they want you to keep it under there the whole time just so it's not in your way. I didn't find any problems with that. I kind of liked having my suitcase, but that's up to you then if you want to bring a tote or a suitcase. You know, if you're like me, you worry about little things like where you're gonna put your coat and what you're gonna do. So we all put our coats underneath the bed. There's like a little, I don't know, there's like a little kind of like a ledge near the floor under the bed. So people put their purses and their coats there. You can bring your phone in with you, but you have to turn it completely off. The whole process. You come in, they sign you a bed, they give you a little tag that has your like number on it so that the people grading you remember that that's who you are. And then you just stand there and you wait until everybody else has been assigned a bed, and then they just start reading the instructions. They tell you that you can start setting up, and then you have 15 minutes to start setting up, and you set up. What I thought was going to happen was I thought that we were going to get done with it a lot sooner. So you have 2 hours to take the exam. In each section, you have a certain amount of time. I thought that we were honestly going to go through it really quickly, and I thought maybe it would take an hour. We ended up taking almost the whole 2 hours, which was just, you know, I don't know, a shock to me, I guess. But so you're in there, they tell you to set up your stuff, you set up your stuff, and I'm gonna do a whole separate video completely just walking you through the state board, telling you exactly what you should do. I'll read through the instructions on New York State's website, but then I'll add in, you know, how I recommend that you do things, at least how I did things. And so if you want to check out that video, I'll have a playlist with all of my state board practical videos linked down below in the description box for you to check those out. Oh, another thing, personally, when we were cleaning things, I sanitized everything because you can never be too clean, you can never be too prepared, and I didn't want to, you know, I don't know, get points off for just not sanitizing enough. So I wiped down the entire bed. There were some girls who, I don't even know if they wiped down the bed. I wasn't paying attention to anybody else, but all I know is that I was the only one who wiped down the entire bed. So I recommend you do that just in case. I don't know what you've been taught at school, but it's just good practice to sanitize everything, you know? Just because you're putting a sheet down on top of it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be clean and sanitized. So there's that. When you're setting up your stuff, if you have room, they tell you to set up your stuff for waxing and for facials, but you leave all of your makeup stuff in the bag. Once you are done with your facial portion, they will tell you, they'll come and they'll check your mask application, and then they'll tell you, okay, like you can take it off, put on your daytime protection, and then you can get set up for makeup. You know, you'll take all of your makeup stuff out of your bag, scrape your makeup onto a plate. I bought little palettes from the dollar store, and I thought they were really helpful because I feel like on a plate things kind of move around and they're not like in one little spot. At least with a palette, it had like little indents so that everything kind of stayed in its place, and then once I was done with it, I just threw it out in the garbage. So I do recommend getting those if that's something that you think would help you. I thought it was really helpful for me, so, you know, take it for what you will. Another thing is when you are cleaning your work area and using like sanitizing wipes or whatever type of sanitizer you're using, I highly recommend putting on gloves. I'm not exactly sure if that's part of the actual whole procedure, but I just think that it's, one, it's saving your hands from the chemicals, and two, it's sanitary. So put on gloves, have a box of gloves there with you, just on the side, that you can just easily throw on whenever you need them. Another thing that I recommend is when you're applying the mask, they don't want you to use a brush. They want you to use either a spatula or your hands. If you're using your hands, just put on gloves beforehand, you know, like throw on some gloves, because then, you know, you don't have a sink there with you. You can't wash your hands. That way you're not getting your towel all dirty trying to get the mask off your hands. That way you could just take off the gloves and your hands are clean. So you will have to analyze the mannequin's skin, and you'll take the mag lamp out from, mine was on the wall behind me, so you take the mag lamp out, and you don't have to turn the lamp on. They just want to see that you're actually just using the lamp. So also make sure that when you're sanitizing the whole mag lamp, you're sanitizing the bar that it's on the wall and the top of it and everything. So, you know, you have it here, you're looking at the skin, you know, make sure you're turning the mannequin's head, pretend like it's a real person and how you would be analyzing their skin. And also make sure that you're pulling a part of the skin and, like, you know, squeezing it, seeing the texture. I know you can't actually really do this stuff with the mannequin skin, but just pretend, you know, they want to see that you know what you're doing. So just, you know, be confident in your abilities and show that you do know what you're doing. You know, even if it is just a mannequin and it's not a real person, treat it like it is a real person. At the end of the exam, you know, they have you clean up, and you know, you're gonna sanitize everything all over again as you're cleaning up, and then you stand there with your bag of trash and all your stuff, and you kind of wait for them to dismiss you and tell you to go. You know, if you read through the New York State procedures and like their procedure list of how to do everything and the steps, it is pretty thorough and in-depth, so you'll be prepared. Just run through it a couple times, even if it's just in your head, so you feel prepared, you feel like you know what you're doing, and you don't have to stand there and think like, oh my god, what do I do next? And then also another thing is the people grading you. So at my location there were 3 people there. One person was reading she was like narrating the exam, I guess, like reading the procedures and everything and reading the introduction. Another person, well, actually there were 2 people sitting on opposite sides of the room. The one was grading 3 of us and the other was grading the other 3. So they do, at least the person grading me, she was getting up and like walking closer to us to see closer up like our makeup application, and she came directly over to us and would have us show her our massage movements, and she was looking at our setup and our products and everything. It wasn't like nerve-wracking when I was in there like thinking about it. It seems like nerve-wracking having somebody like looking and seeing every little thing you're doing, but for the most part she was sitting in a chair across the room just kind of observing. So I just kind of, you know, did my thing and went on with what I was doing. I tried not to think about the fact that she was watching me as much, because, you know, she also was watching 2 other girls too, so it wasn't a ton of pressure. So yeah, that is everything I wish I knew about taking the Aesthetics State Board practical exam. Hopefully this helped you and gave you a little bit of insight on the exam. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will do my best to respond as soon as possible. And also, if you have any other comments or things that you wish you would have known before you took your exam or anything, leave them in the comments. I want the comments to be a space for you all to kind of learn from each other and help each other out too. So stay tuned for my other State Board practical videos. I'll link that playlist in the description box, so if you want to check out those videos, please do. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next videos.